Welcome back to the Glow Up Girl podcast. I am Kyra Mitchell-Lewis, and today I'm joined by Vienne Cheung. She is founder and CEO of VM Milano, the first luxury hosiery brand and online boutique dedicated to thigh-high stockings, over-the-knee socks, and knee-high socks, which I love, by the way. Welcome, Vienne, to the Glow Up Girl podcast.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. Well, let's go ahead and get started because I definitely want to get into all things hosiery and VM Milano because it's very hard to find the right hosiery, as far as like the right fit, the right style. So let's just start by you telling the audience about you and your background.
Well, you actually have started off or left right exactly where my story begins, right? So I'm Vienne of VM Milano. I created VM Milano almost 10 years ago. At the time, I worked in corporate America and I couldn't find thigh highs that would stay up on my leg. Everything were either, I don't know, they were meant for costume wear or they were just price point at $100 per pair, which didn't make it feasible for me, at least, to wear for work every day. And then there's always like, oh, well, what about pantyhose? Well, I am not someone who is 6 feet tall and weighing 110 pounds. So, pantyhose or tights, they often just come up to like up here for me, right? So that's why I do love thigh-high stockings so much. So anyway, with a little bit of research, I knew that this style of hosiery, thigh-high stockings that are elegant and stylish, did exist in Europe, especially in Italy. And so I spent almost a year in, sourcing, meeting different suppliers, developing a brand, and we launched VM Milano in 2011. So that's how my journey began, if you will.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I do love that you said that tights and stockings. I mean, I thought, how you think that's only you? Because when you pull them up and I'm like, oh my God, like I'm not that tall. I'm literally I'm 5'4.5". And so.
Oh, you're taller than me.
Trying to like pull them up and then they roll or it's just not a good like feeling. It's not a good customer experience, right?
And if you like to eat like me, like the moment you eat, I don't know, a sandwich or something, it's already like you feel like it's like a muffin top.
Oh my God, it's already rolling.
Yeah.
So what steps? Obviously, you said you had a job in corporate America, but you wanted to start a business. So what steps did you take to start your business?
That's a great question. And so, the steps I took were really just doing the research, right? So making sure that there is a market and that there are people who are similar to me that were also looking for hosiery as well. So I had spent actually a good amount of time talking to people that wear hosiery and also visiting different department stores. I'm from Boston. I live in Boston. And so I visited a variety of department stores in the downtown Boston area. And just to see what kind of offering they have. And I took notes on the brands that they carry, the sizes, the colors, etc. And so that, and also I did some research on, who are the people what kind of folks wear hosiery or thigh-high stockings in particular. And with that, we developed a brand positioning. So the brand positioning that I had from the very beginning is that VM Milano reveals the style and confidence of a woman who knows how to be elegant, playful, and sexy in every occasion. And so the reason why we chose these words was because I knew that the type of woman to wear our hosiery would be someone who is stylish and who has confidence and she's happy to reveal it. But more importantly, we wanted to play up the elegance of hosiery. And yes, we know that thigh-high stockings is sexy, but we also wanted to play down on that sex appeal. So that's why it's like the last word we chose in our brand positioning. And lastly, we wanted to mention that it is something you could wear for every occasion. having that develop, sourcing, once I had my brand positioning, you know, taking that on and visiting suppliers was good, because now I can explain, this is the vision that we have. Can you supply us, or what kind of designs you have, or what do you have available that that we could work with you on? And do you ultimately fit our brand, right? So those are some of the key things that are important as well.
Those are some great steps and some great advice, because I think a lot of times people have a good idea, or what they think is a good idea for a business, and it's just, okay, just pour everything into this idea without actually going through the research. Like all those steps you took, I mean, they were the appropriate steps. First of all, you saw a need, because you had that need, and you talked to other women with the need, and then you got provided a solution. And then you researched and you found your persona, like your customer profile. So I think that's really, really good advice for anybody out there. Now, how did you deal, Vienne, with any roadblocks or challenges along the way to being, having success in your business? I'm definitely listening as an entrepreneur myself that's, building a business.
I think at some point you just become resilient, right? You have to be resilient, and there's always going to be roadblocks, and there's always going to be feedback that you don't want to hear, but you have to.
Right.
And so I know this is probably not the answer you're looking for, but I think when it comes to challenges and roadblock, you just have to tell yourself you have to get over it. Otherwise, there's no other way.
Yeah. Yeah. Now I like that. I mean, I definitely think that resilience is key in anything that you do, that you hope to find success in, but definitely as a business owner, because there are some months where, they're great months. And then there's some months where you're like, wait, what's happening? So you definitely just have to be very, I think, buttoned down and focused. Like you have to be focused and resilient on getting to your end goal.
Yep. And then, there's also the element of time, right? So I could spend a lot of time trying to, get the right picture or the right brand, yes, etc. But at the same time, you as an entrepreneur, you want to get things done, and so it doesn't have to be perfect, but it has to be a right medium. It's a balancing act where you have to kind of at some point figure out, because you don't want to launch things half-ass, right? And because that comes back to you. You're like, oh no, I have to do this all over again.
Right.
You're losing double the time. But I think through experience, you figure out, okay, here are some things that I could do without.
Right. Yeah.
And then here are some things I absolutely have to get right.
I am, I'm so glad you said that, because I think so many people fall victim to like analysis paralysis, where they spend all this time trying to get something right and perfect in their eyes, but it may be good. Some things just have to be good enough.
Yep.
And you have to be able to let those things go, or especially when you're like a solopreneur and it's you doing all the things, and you have to get to a place to where you can just say, okay, you know what? I think this is good. I can let this go. Because if you don't, then you find yourself like just constantly, oh yeah, I've been working on this. I'm going to get it. I'm just working on it. I'm going to get it perfect. Then I'm going to release it. And then you just see that deadline just keep pushing back. And you don't, and like you said, there's an essence of time you don't have, because life is happening around you. People are doing things similar to what you're doing. People are continuing to move forward. And I personally am a person that's like, I'm going to throw it at the wall and see if it sticks. I've gotten better. I've tried to get better this year but at the same time, I'm just like, you know what? When I get a good idea, if it all comes to me and it comes together in form, then I ride that instinct and just keep moving with it, as opposed to every little thing has to be in its place. So, yeah.
And I think there's probably more entrepreneurs that are in that mindset than those that are like, I have to get it perfect. But I could be wrong. Maybe it's a 50-50 split.
Yeah, I feel like it probably is. I mean, because I think that it's just, someone's building something that feels like their baby, and it's your baby, so you want everything right. But at the same time, I think there's something amazing that happens as an entrepreneur when you start to let other people in and you start to accept help. I just say that because I learned from experience of just trying to do everything myself, but then eventually getting to a place in the summer where I'm like, you know what, I can't do all these like administrative like tasks. I can't do all the editing for the podcast. Like, get an editor, girl, get a personal assistant, get an admin. And so just by doing those two things, I mean, it frees me up to actually work on like larger scale projects for the business, to plan for the future, but I have to continue to tell myself that too, because I can go down these rabbit holes of ideas and I'll look up and I'm like, oh my God, I've been doing this for 3 hours. Stop.
But you're enjoying it, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it's like a gift and a curse, right?
Yeah. I can totally relate to those times when you're like, I want this to be like the right purple or with the right font. It has to be in the right place. And you're like, oh my God, what the heck?
It's like, stop. It's like, stop, take a break, girl. So Vienne, what steps did you take as far as a lot of entrepreneurs want to know about funding and capital? Like, how can I get, grants? What advice would you give to someone?
Sure. Well, I mean, the thing that I keep thinking about, or I use as an analogy, is you can't play polo without a horse, right? And so if you don't have the right capital, then you really shouldn't be, you really can't do it. Not that, I mean, I've heard of some amazing stories of entrepreneurs that started their business taking out 18 loans, taking 18 credit card loans, and now they have $1 million empire, et cetera, right? But maybe those are the exceptions, right? Whereas I think you do have to be in a place that you're financially ready to make the jump. So back to that analogy, you can't play polo without a horse. You really can't play polo without a horse.
Exactly.
And then as in terms of grants, I'm not so sure. I mean, everybody has a different story. I know that, in fact, a friend of mine, she's starting her own business and she lives in Hawaii, and she knows that the state of Hawaii is giving out like $10,000 grant if you have the right business proposal, etc. And so she's working towards that. So I guess I would, if I have an idea and I am an entrepreneur who wants to start a business, I would look into just about every avenue creatively too, to see what are some things that would work for you. VM Milano did start with an investor who's a friend of mine. And at the end of the day, I would say that my friend or the investor invested not necessarily in the idea, but me. And that's what he will always say too. When he invests in other businesses, he invests in the person, not necessarily the idea or the practice or whatever, or the business model, because all of that can change, but the person cannot.
Yeah, no, I really like that. And if you maybe elaborate a little bit more on just some, because I think a lot of times people know friends and they know people that may be able to invest, but a lot of times I think people may not know the way to approach it.
Well, I think, the way to approach it isn't necessarily like, I'm gonna like, well, it really depends, right? Isn't necessarily like, okay, this is my end game. Right. Sometimes you just, especially with a subject that involves with people, it's a numbers game. You meet as many people as possible. You talk to as many people as possible. Some people you really get along with, regardless of what your idea or what you're pitching or what you're not pitching may be. And then there are some people that you're like, you know what? Thank you very much. This has been a great conversation. I will see you whenever,
Right.
But I think at the end of the day, it's a numbers game, which, you know, during a pandemic, it could be difficult because you're not going out as much and you're not going to events. But at the same time, it's also wonderful. I can reach out to folks like you. Now I could virtually meet people, and I think more people are more willing to open up to a conversation, to start new relationships and friendships, just because they themselves have nowhere to go to as well.
Right. I agree with that. I think this definitely has been a time of shifting and probably more connection than before.
Or reconnection. I've picked up the phone and talked to folks that I met a few years ago and reconnected, like, hey, how are you? How's your family?
Right. Yeah. And as far as the pandemic and your business, what shifts have you had to make this year?
Oh, good golly. So because of all our products are made in Italy, it's been interesting to say the least, but it kind of well, I'll start from the beginning of it, right? So typically, my husband and I, we actually travel to Italy at least once a year, and that usually happens towards the end of January. And that's, when I visit our suppliers and everything. But this year I didn't, because at the time I was 7 months pregnant. And so, blessing in disguise, really. And so I didn't go, which was interesting because that was really when COVID had started getting bigger and bigger, or more disastrous, if you will, in Europe, particularly in Italy. And then, so back to the fact that I was pregnant, I thought, gosh, I don't know what state of mind I'll be in after having a baby. And so I also, triple, quadruple my typical order, so that I would have more inventory available. And that really worked out. Here I am trying to get everything out of Italy towards I want to say mid-February timeframe. And at that time, things were starting to slowly close down because of COVID. And I'm like, oh, no, you guys, you can't. I've been waiting for like a week, now 1 week, now 2 weeks, 3 weeks. What the heck is going on? At the end of the third week, I'm already like yelling and screaming at my suppliers, like, we've been working for a while. You really have to get this stuff out the door. And so finally, they were very apologetic. They did get everything out the door. Now, typically what they do when they do ship hosiery to us is that they have everything neatly packaged. But because I rushed them through, they didn't. I mean, things were intact, sure, but they weren't as like prim and proper, which is fine. But the moral of the story is we actually got everything out like a day before Italy shut down. So had it been like a day or two, or a week later, I wouldn't have been able to get all of that stuff out of Italy. I'm sure someone would say, well, if you really wanted to, I'm sure there's some other way, but it would have been more hurdles, right? So we got everything out in time, and so we had enough inventory to get us through, right? And that was nice. Now, but what's more interesting is that Italy is shut down once again, and they shut down like last week. But I think because of the event of last spring, the government knows that, like, okay, we can't shut down everything again, because our economy would really just go would tank. And so, our suppliers can go to work. They can, get our products out the door, etc. So it's a different scenario, but definitely not as dire as the first time. Because I think people are also, they have some experience and expectations, and so they know. Well, hopefully they know what the right thing to do is.
Yeah. I mean, I could obviously only imagine, in the beginning, the first wave of this, of course, no one knew really what to do. So it was, we got to stop everything so that people can shelter. And I think, like you said, now just sort of drawing off the experiences of March and April and, early on. And now people, are able to go into work in a more safe environment and be able to produce things. And yeah, definitely those early shipments early on were like, wait, you mean what? It's going to be how many weeks before I get something? I mean, I will order things and forget that I'd actually ordered them because they were taking so long. But definitely, all the shipping companies have done an amazing job to make sure that we have the things that we need. So I can't say it enough, but kudos to them for that.
And you know what, that's another interesting topic that has come up because of this is, would we consider sourcing from a different country, right? Because of the situation of Italy, where the entire Italian economy was inevitably closed for some time. And my thought is, well, this pandemic affected more than just Italy too. France was shut down, right?
Right. Yeah.
Other parts. So, and then countries that are like, oh no, we're fine. Do you really trust they're doing? Do you really trust our numbers? So, I guess my point is, I have, and this is a question that has come up for me many, many times, which is, well, what about sourcing from other places? And I'm not ready to make that push yet. And I think that has been actually the lesson from this pandemic. I've listened and learned from others who have survived, if you will,
right,
through 9/11, bubble burst, the last recession. And a lot of the feedback or the recommendation is just sit tight. Don't freak out. The sky has not fallen. It's not falling. And just sit tight. Because things will kind of work itself out at some point.
Yeah. I definitely think that's a great attitude to have, because you can only control what you can control. And there's no sense in you you can't worry yourself to death over something you don't have control over. And I think you have the right attitude to handle it. So tell us about some of your great products. Definitely want to. Yeah.
Well, so my latest collection, I really am happy about this last launch. I'm typically happy about all launches in general, but this one in particular has been something that I think a lot of our customers have been waiting for, which is we now have a few animal print or cheetah prints. I'm always like, is it cheetah or is it leopard? And we've actually the difference. It's leopard. But I think for folks that aren't sure, we also call it animal print as well. So we have stockings that have that beautiful cheetah print, similar to the shirt you're wearing, right? And so what's also awesome about this style, it's called Vittoria. And the reason why we call this is because, it's a very bold, ambitious look. It's for a woman who, hey, is ready to take on the day with victory. So that's why we chose that name. But what's more interesting is that this pair of stockings is made with sustainable. It's an eco-friendly style. It's made with reusable nylons. So what happens is that when stockings is created, oftentimes there's a lot of nylons that are thrown away. It's excess, right? So what we've done is we've taken all of that back, put it back into the machine through a different method, of course, and we've used that nylon to create Vittoria and a bunch of other styles as well. But this one in particular is made with reusable nylons, so nothing is wasted through the process.
Very cool.
Yeah. And then, we also have 5 sizes, so small all the way to 3XL. We have different color sheer stockings, so black to chocolate brown. And then we also have knee highs and over the knee socks, which I think you had mentioned in the beginning of this conversation as well. So definitely I would check out, if you get a chance to go to my website and check out our latest styles in our collection.
Very good. I love it. So Vienne, as an entrepreneur, what do you find is the most fulfilling thing?
Oh, where do I begin?
I love that.
So it's 2 things. One is that I enjoy meeting people like you, right? So the journey of meeting interesting people has been quite fulfilling. You know, it's people that you would never have a chance to meet in a million years. I would not, if I didn't have my business, I would not have an opportunity to meet someone like you, right? And so that's pretty cool, you know. But then it goes both ways. Everything goes both ways. Then you meet people that you're like, oh my God. But anyway, I don't want to talk about that. The other thing that I find fulfilling is that you are really responsible for, you know, all your accomplishments and failure as well.
Yeah.
But, you know, nevertheless, you're the person in charge of that. So I find that to be quite fulfilling.
Yes. Awesome. And what are you most looking forward to for the future of VM Milano? I mean, I know there's probably a lot, but if there's one thing that you're like, yes, I'm so excited about this thing.
Well, I think one thing that we will be continuing on is to work with materials that are more sustainable or maybe biodegradable, right? And so that's something that we will continue to work on. And I'm always a little hesitant to answer like, oh, 2021 will be a great year, because you never know, right? Because you could be jumping from the pan into the fire. Or it could go the other way. Sure, it could be like, oh yeah, 2020 was just that chaotic year for everybody. But you never know. It can go both ways.
Just have to keep an open mind, right?
Open mind and be on your toes.
Exactly. I mean, definitely this was, I mean, you know, in business, you hear so many people always I remember just always hearing people, oh, you got to pivot. Oh yeah. Or I'm agile. And I'm like, no, this has really been the year of agile, like agility and agile people, because it showed a lot of people who were actually just using the word agile, and they weren't really able to make that shift. But it also has afforded a lot of people who are quick on their toes, who are able to shift and make those quick pivots, has given those people the opportunity to start businesses, to find new ways if you are in corporate America, to help your company find different ways of doing things in this time. So I definitely, I will continue to say, as I've said to a lot of people and on the show, that, you know, 2020 I never will say that, oh, it's like been the worst year. It's just been a year of evolution and a year of growth. And I think that it's up to you to decide how you handle it, and you know what you do.
One thing you said that that made me think too was the word pivot. And so that is something we have pivoted this year, which is something totally unexpected for us. So this year, you know, instead of focusing on boutique, which have also, you know, have been hit because of COVID, we've pivoted our wholesale side of the business to photographers. So a lot of women in particular, you know, they understand that this is the time where they should be spending the time and money on themselves. So a lot of boudoir photographers are now having their best years working with women who are willing to spend, I don't know, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 on a photo shoot, on glamour shoots, on themselves, right? Because it's self-pampering, etc. And so a lot of these photographers understand that having thigh-high stockings or hosiery can make that picture or that photo shoot stand out. Like it gives the woman in front of the camera a boost of confidence, if you will, right? And so as a result, we've been working with actually a lot of boudoir photographers who will buy our hosiery wholesale, keep it in their studio and sell it to their customers, or they give it to their customers, whatever. And so that was a pivot in our change in our business.
You are embracing, look at you, embracing new opportunities, a new stream of income, right? Yeah. One last question for you. What advice would you give to someone I know you've talked a lot, a lot of, you've sort of given us some framework for steps and some appropriate steps if you're looking to start a business. But what advice would you just give someone just saying, hey, I think I got an idea. Maybe I want to start something.
Yeah.
But what would you say to them?
I think the most important thing is to be sure. You can't second guess and start a business, right?
Right.
I'm sure, again, there are definitely exceptions. But I think more importantly, though, even if you are second guessing your idea, is to be determined. Because if you're someone who's like, I have this great idea, and I can think of, unfortunately, some examples where there were entrepreneurs that I've met who have a great idea, but because they let excuses get in their way, they weren't determined in following through. And as a result,
right,
their business goes by the wayside, right? So,
right.
For example, one person I know may have been trying to seek funding to start her business, but because there were job opportunities that had, what perceivably seemed to be a greater payout, she jumped on that as opposed to focusing on starting her business, right? So, or maybe, in another situation, it could be the perception of, gosh, this is a lot of work.
Right.
Do I really want to do that? Like, if you're already if the process of thinking through all the work or the steps you have to make is overwhelming, then perhaps this might not be the thing for you. One thing that I never thought would be really something I would be doing so much of as an entrepreneur is that you're going to be moving boxes around all the time. It's something that I don't think people you go to business school and they'll tell you, business model, accounting, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, whatever. Right. They don't tell you that you're going to be moving things all the time. You're unpacking, counting. I mean, maybe not. Right. If you're starting a .com business, sure. But you will be moving boxes often. Moving things.
You're there's some manual labor that comes with
this exactly. There is manual labor that comes with being an entrepreneur. So let's just be expecting of that.
Yeah. You're but I do like what you said. Overall, be sure. Think about it, weigh the pros and cons. If you're in a place where you're thinking, oh, I don't know that I want to do all those steps that she talked about, then I agree. You should reconsider, because when you do take the shortcuts, it shows. And oftentimes when you take those shortcuts, you don't get to success, and you can't also expect to get to success overnight. It takes a lot of time and sweat, tears, and work to actually build something that's sustainable. Well, Vienne, I thank you so much for joining us. Can you tell the audience where they can find you online?
Sure. So my website is Vienne, Vienne, Milano, Milano.com. Vienne's my name. Milano is essentially a fashion capital in Italy. So Vienne Milano. However, if you think that's a little hard to spell, there's always wearthighhighs.com, which also takes you to the same place as well.
I like that too. But no, it's but again, now I thank you. I wish you so much success.
Thank you.
For the future and everything that you work on. And we didn't get a visit from your cute baby today.
No, so he's with his grandparents. So similarly, I'm not sure if he's gonna make an appearance or not. So he's with his grandparents today.
He's definitely a cutie. Thank you again, Vienne.
Thank you so much for having me. This is such an honor to be able to talk to you and to share my experience. So thank you very much.
Yes, of course. And stay tuned, everybody. I'll be right back.